On today's episode, it's a doozy. We talk about poop, baby grandmas, Crocs, how ready is a lie, how inauthenticity is exhausting. We have butt cream as influencers, tattooing your left butt cheek, but seriously, we cover all of that and give you all the secrets to marketing. And I mean it, the secrets to marketing to 7 figures, 8 figures by one of the best in the game. I can't do it any more justice. Let's get into the episode. Everybody, welcome back to another Free For All Friday on the Mind of George show. And I will have to say that my guest today is somebody I know that makes my energy look like I'm sleeping. So she is the queen of baby grandmas. She's in business with her brother, is addicted to Crocs, is fed sourdough against her best wishes, the queen of authenticity, has a podcast, a CBD company, the best event in the world, and is changing the world with poop jokes and everything imagined. I am so honored and so delighted to have my friend Angie on the show.
Oh my gosh, that was the best intro I've ever heard.
Yes.
How do you know me so well?
I literally pride myself on being the Eminem of marketing because I can't sing and I'm obsessed with freestyle rap and watching it, but I can't do it, so I do it in marketing.
Her energy makes me feel like I'm asleep. Something about Crocs, something about poop jokes. You know what? I'm here for it.
Oh, I'm so stoked to have you. It's so fun.
Oh, man.
I'm going to kick this off because I think you're going to answer this where it goes, but I'm just going to lead it. So one of my favorite questions, I kind of like to rip the Band-Aid off, and you've been in this game for a long time, and you literally carve your own path, but you do it in a way that is just so fun and invigorating and leading. And you're even writing a book about this. But the first question I always ask everybody is like, when you look back at your career in any parts of it, what was one of the biggest quote unquote like mistakes or lessons that you've learned? And then how do you mitigate it now into the future?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest mistakes I've made, other than obviously losing money on random stupid but not stupid business ideas. I mean, Mike and I had a food distribution business in Chicago before we had Soul CBD, and I thought it was going to be the next big thing. I was like, Mike, this is going to be it. Healthy food delivered to people's doorsteps. This is genius. He's like, no, that's not going to be a thing. And now, I mean, everybody's got fresh and lean delivered to their house. So I did forecast this 10 years ago. But honestly, when I look back, I feel like my not mistake, but when I look back and I think of regrets, it's always me not being as cheesy as it sounds, as authentic as I could be. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of my career, having a personal brand, I was pretending to be somebody I wasn't, and I was being more serious and not expressing my energy and my weirdness and all of who I am and all of who really Angie is, because I was trying to look like everybody else in my industry. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the other women in my industry are very polished and serious. And when I came into this world, I looked around and said, oh, if that's how she's teaching marketing, that's how I have to do it too. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I realized that inauthenticity is exhausting and I didn't want to act fake anymore that I started to, like you said in the beautiful intro, to give poop jokes and talk about my love of Crocs and just weird gitchy things that I was embarrassed to share about, or I thought nobody was going to relate to on this, that my brand actually blew up because because women then reached out and said, oh my gosh, you're just like me. Oh my gosh, you are weird. Oh, you show yourself not always looking perfect, or, oh, you say inappropriate weird things. And it's really given me permission to be myself. And so when I look back, I would say that I wish I would have done that sooner. Mm-hmm. I wish I would have just been fully me from the get-go versus spending the first few years pretending I was somebody that I wasn't.
Yeah. It's, it's funny is like we both got to the same conclusion. I just had to give away a company to learn the lesson, right? I had to walk away from being an influencer because it killed me. Like it literally killed me. And it's like, for me, it's funny. The word lie is going to come up in this show just because of your book, but it felt like I had to keep living this lie, and eventually it unraveled, but it cost me what felt like everything. But is there a part of you that thinks though now, like looking back, like, and guys, like, I'm going to say this right now. If you don't follow Angie on Instagram,
Prepare your hearts.
Like I literally like I don't think I've ever laughed just thinking about somebody's Instagram until like right in this
Oh,
moment.
I love that. That makes me so happy.
It really really is. It's like a joy of sunshine, like the one across the chest in your video right now from the light in
Yeah.
your window.
Yeah.
But is there a part of you that also thinks too, like, when you look back that you had to kind of go through that evolution to see that perspective so you could fully embody who you are today?
100% because contrast is necessary. And so knowing what it's like to fake it online as an influencer and somebody who's that word just I don't know why that word gets such a bad rap, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm really committed to being the anti-influencer now, which means I am an influencer. I am paid by brands, but I'm so against the typical like I live in Los Angeles and all I talk about is, butt cream and I'm perfect all day influencer. But I do feel like that contrast was necessary. So now I know what it feels like to just be fully myself. And you talked about energy. The reason I have a lot of energy is because I'm not pretending to be somebody I'm not.
Mhm.
And inauthenticity is exhausting. So I have more energy to
Yeah.
do whatever I want to do.
It's like there's this like secret sauce. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I mean, it's true, but I think it's something that what I really admire from afar, and I actually told you this like when I met you, like just your energy,
Yeah.
but like you don't worry about like the way that I see it is you're like, okay, I'm in alignment first. Like this is what feels the best for me. This is what I want to say, how I want to say it, what I want to do. And you come from there and then figure out the best place to put it, right? And I feel
Yeah.
like if I had to air quote anybody the secret, like that's the only way to do it. And, you tend to carve your own path when it comes to marketing and you have massive success. Like, isn't it like top 100 podcasts, like best women's event, like 11 million downloads? Like,
Yeah.
by the way, the website's dope. Their branding is great on what they did with your
Oh,
website. I love it. I'm jealous.
yay.
Yeah, totally own it.
Crocs new CEO. I
Own it
mean,
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Oh yeah,
crushing
Crocs
it.
new CEO. I mean, literally, I had to see this Queen of Baby Grandma thing and the baby grandma thing. I'm like, what is this? And I was like, there's coffee cups with grandmas. I was like, did Angie? Of course she did. Of course she did. Okay. Got it. But what I think is so powerful is like you apply that everywhere. You have a CBD company with your brother, right? So My Soul CBD, you are, in my opinion, like one of the queens of Instagram, live events, you motivate people, you do it. But even in everywhere, you don't hold yourself down to like the specific lane of like, oh, I have to go build an email list, or I have to just do Instagram, or I have to just do Facebook, or I have to do events. You ask yourself like, who is it that I want to be? And what do I want to share? And then I think you take the approach of like, where's the best place to put it? Something
Yeah,
along those lines?
you're a genius. I could tell you're obviously really smart because you're able to the fact that you're able to analyze what I'm doing and the psychology behind the brand is so I mean it just speaks to your brain and your genius, but I'm extremely multi-passionate and a lot of my content now is speaking to that woman or man who is multi-passionate saying, "Hey, listen, if you also have ADD and you're a 7 on the Enneagram and you're multi-passionate, I see you, I feel you, I am you. Let's do this. You can do many things. You can have many different business models, but not all at once."
Mm-hmm.
And that's the mistake people make is, "Oh, I just want to do it all at once. I want to have digital products, physical products, live events. I want to have a podcast. I want to do all of these things overnight, a merchandise line." And they try to do it all overnight and then it is confusing. So I'm a really big believer in yes, you can do it all, just not all at once. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
huge part of the brand. But yeah, I don't like following a lot of the marketing rules because I believe that a lot of them, marketing is a science and an art.
Mm-hmm.
And I focus a lot more on the art of marketing than the science of it. A lot of people focus on the back end, the analytics, the ROI. They focus on their numbers. They obsess about the left brain metrics of the business versus focusing on how did I actually impact my customer today? Did I touch people? Did I respond to that message with empathy? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Empathy is so underrated right now. A lot of marketers don't really care about their customers. And so because I actually care and because I actually respond and because I put humans before metrics, I'm able to connect deeper with my audience and that potential customer. And thus, they go tell their friend, "Hey, Susie, she actually responds or she actually listens or her content, it feels like she's actually talking to me. She actually listens." And so then I'm able to have word of mouth marketing, which costs me $0 while everyone else is focusing on, oh, did this one ad convert?
Mm-hmm.
Everything I've done's been organic. I don't spend $1 on ads. And so
Nope.
for me to create that content that actually spreads, I have to focus on shareable content. I have to put the customer first, and I have to focus on human psychology more than I do, okay, how many likes did this get? How many shares did this get? I mean, I don't look at that every day. I can't. I look at it once a month, and then I move forward and I create content that I know is going to help her. Because if you get so stuck in the analytics of marketing, you forget why you're doing it, and you forget how to even speak to the customer. And the next thing you know, you don't have empathy, and they're on to the next person who does. And this is very Gary V, you know, my God, where is Gary V? I love him, but empathy is just so underrated right now. And I think that is the reason why I stand out, is because I actually give a shit. I actually give a shit about who I'm speaking to, and they can feel that.
Yeah. And, you know, there's so many things I want to unpack first, just for everybody listening. It's just some more validation that when I trademarked relationships beat algorithms, there was an art and a reason to it. You're welcome.
Yes, that's so good.
But yeah. I mean, like, that's what it is. Like, we use a lighthouse as an analogy in everything, because it's a consistent beam of light, or it's a consistent job. And it doesn't matter when people come in. It just matters when they get there. There's a safe space. Like, that's it. And so when you said, you know, marketing is an art and a science, I think the only science of marketing, in my opinion, is consistency. Everything else is an art. And, you know, what I love, and for those listening, like, what I unpack from what you said is that you also don't measure in hours, minutes, days, or transactions while trying to transform your business. You understand that, like, the actions you take consistently today are going to create a result that might not be realized for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And I will say, the thing, if I could go back to your intro, I would add the queen of consistency. And I really, really, really mean that. Because I think people undervalue that as a strategy and tactic right off the bat. Like, it is the most powerful, quote unquote, strategy and tactic is consistency.
Yeah.
And what I love that you do, and I'd love for you to talk about this, is that what is perfect is that you're posting in alignment, but what it looks like doesn't always look perfect. It could be you jumping on a rebounder. It could be you throwing sticky notes up. Like, literally, you do videos in your shower because the natural daylight in your bathroom is better, and you'll run webinars on a cardboard box with a phone, no mic, no background noise, with the landscapers outside, and Clay walks in with sourdough and a piece of butter on it to tell you, well, he sleeps with a sourdough culture next to your bed, right? Like,
what is my life? I give up. I quit. You know, this is an intervention. This is a therapy session. I will Venmo you later. I quit. I actually quit. No, it's forget about the sourdough. But well, wait, what was the question? Shit, my ADD.
that ready is a lie, and
consistency
is now, yes, consistency.
Yeah, I mean, consistency breeds legitimacy, and so many people are in this paralysis of what should I share, what should I post. First of all, they don't know who they're talking to, so that's why they have this paralysis. But then they post once a month or once a week, and they're expecting people to buy their shit. And let's be honest, top of mind awareness is everything. I'm trading attention, right? As Gary Vee says, that's all I'm doing. I'm just trading and buying attention. That's all I want. Just your attention and your eyeballs. And so if I'm not relevant, then they're going to go find someone else who is. And so for me, I'm always putting done is better than perfect. I'm always putting consistency before the perfection, because if I only posted when it looked perfect or when I felt like it, I'd probably post once every 8 weeks. I mean, I'll be real with you, right? I just don't, it's a game of quantity as well. Yes, the quality, but your consumers in front of you. And if you're not speaking to them on a consistent basis, they're going to go find someone who is. And so I genuinely love what I do, though. I love creating. I'm not someone who wants to actually be a big CEO or business owner, or I mean, I became an entrepreneur because I had to, because I'm super unemployable. But to be honest, my favorite thing in the world is to create. Nothing makes me happier than just creating a really funny or interesting or educational piece of content. I love editing little parts of a video or a podcast. I love being the producer of something. I love being creative. And so that helps me to be consistent, because I actually enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And when you love what you do, you can actually show up and be consistent. So I think the big issue is a lot of people don't actually enjoy creating content. I just happen to like being a creator, which helps me to be consistent. But yeah, if you're waiting for it to look perfect, I mean, you're going to be waiting forever.
Yeah, perfect is when it's posted is something I say all the time. Like, literally perfect is when it's posted. Like, that's What I mean, like even when I ran Caveman, right? Like, you remember these days, but we used to win because Facebook was timeline based. It was linear, right? So we knew if we posted like every hour, right? And then I'll never forget the algorithm change coming in. Everyone's like, my life is over, my business is over, Facebook stole my thing. I'm like, it's their platform. And everyone's like, it's broken. And I remember after that happened, I went live every day for 9 months and I added 110,000 fans organically just by showing up consistently. And like, I'll never forget, Angie, some of the videos got like 1,100 views. One got 6.5 million. And I was a food blogger, and the 6.5 million views when I talked about being bulimic as a food blogger covered in tattoos with an 8-pack, right? Like, you never really know, but you also don't have a chance if you don't post it. And one of the things that you said, I have like 17 open loops in my brain right now. We will close them all because I don't forget.
I do too. I do too. I can tell you have ADD, ADHD too. I'm like, I love it. I'm with you. I'm like, oh, we have 8 other loops to close.
I'm like, you and I are like, this is why we're good at marketing though. Like, I don't think most people understand when we say we obsess about the psychology of marketing. It's because we obsess about our own psychology and what makes us tick, so we know how to use it in the world.
Yes.
Like, everyone's like, how did you get so good at marketing? I'm like, I paid for 7 figures of therapy and Matt Damon them all for like 25 years, and now I'm really good at marketing.
Yeah, it's so funny. Clay will say this. He's like, the reason you're good at marketing is because you're good at humans. Mm-hmm. And that's it, right? I don't know funnels better than anyone else. I don't know tripwires or how to use a certain CRM system. I don't have any crazy tactic for you. I just think before I post. And the question I ask myself is this going to be helpful for the person that I'm speaking to? Mm-hmm. How would you respond to this? Is it educational? Is it empowering? Is it entertaining? If it's not one of those things, I don't share it. Yep. There's intention behind everything, even when I'm being weird. Yep. And that intentionality and that empathy is what makes it actually then convert, where a lot of people just don't care, or I feel like they either don't care or they care too much where it's perfect, right? You gotta kind of be in the middle. We're like, you care, but not too much.
Yeah, and it's like, this is what I don't understand about some of it. Like, marketing's supposed to be messy because we're supposed to meet our customers where they are, not where they're aspiring to be. A lot of times the perfection creates reactance in your ideal customer. Like, it makes it almost unattainable and unbelievable, and your offer's amazing and it just won't convert because you're trying to be too fucking perfect. Like, literally, That's it.
Yeah, it's crazy. My niche course is one of my best-selling courses right now. It's passive, it's digital, it sits there and it makes me money. And what's hilarious about it is I didn't hire a fancy photographer. I didn't make sure it looked super, super professional while all these other women were paying $100,000 to have someone come over and film this fancy schmancy thing. I'm like, you know what? I'm a really good teacher. I know how to teach positioning. Let me get on Zoom. Let me teach this, pour my heart out, 8 hours of content. Let's go. That one course has made me over $350,000 over the last 2 years. Yeah. And my overhead on it was my Zoom account.
My Zoom account.
I just want people to know that's not millions of dollars yet. But to be honest, if I wouldn't have just put it out there, it's a good chunk of money that I wouldn't have made because I was waiting for things to look perfect, or I was waiting for it to look super professional. And now in 2021, in a few days, people don't want that. People want real value, real connection. They want empathy. And my brand, I would say, is beautiful discord. I learned this term the other day. My book designer, we were on Zoom, and she's like, you know why I like your brand? It's beautiful discord. And I said, what does that mean? What does that even mean? She's like, it's beautifully messy. And I was like, oh, like a hot mess express.
Yeah, hot mess express.
I was like, thanks, lady. Like, that's nice. But I didn't know if she was I didn't know if it was a compliment or not. But now I use that with my website and my brand team. I'm like, make it look like beautiful discord, which is where it's playful, it's messy, but in the most beautiful, fun way. Cause that is me. And that's what I want to share with other women and men is, hey, it doesn't need to look perfect. Your feed doesn't need to look perfect. You in videos doesn't need to look perfect. You just need to show up and be you, because gone are the days 2014, 2015, where people wanted to see everything so aesthetically perfect. I think we got exhausted from that.
Yeah. Well, now there's Instagram accounts dedicated to calling them all out for being fake and inauthentic. And
what? I need this job.
Oh, I'll send them to you. You will laugh like crazy. I can't even explain some of the things that I see. And so I'm going to close like 3 loops right now, because earlier what you talked about, and it actually ties it together when we think about humans and marketing, right? Like, You said something very early on that I want everybody to remember. And if none of you have read Jonah Berger books, I know she's going to agree with this, but read Contagious, read The Catalyst. But 93% of marketing is word of mouth. And I say this all the time. When was the last time somebody had a negative experience said something positive about you? And so at the core of it, like when you nail human in marketing, you have to remember that there's only three needs of your consumer or potential consumer. They need to feel seen, heard, and respected. That's it. And if you can hit one of those buckets, you load their gun with ammunition that the only thing they can say in one of those 8 to 10 brand recommendation to referrals is something positive to capitalize on exactly what Angie said. And so I had to close it because it was there and it was driving me nuts. But when you said earlier, like we were talking about posting, and I know your book, and by the way, I'm excited for your book. I love that you crowdsourced the title ideas. And I was like, I remember I was like texting Clay. I'm like, tell her this one, tell her this one, tell her this one. I totally skipped the line. I'm like, I'm special. I'm going to text Clay to tell Angie instead of commenting on social.
Yeah. You're like, I'm cooler. I got.
And then what's funny is like, I wouldn't text you though, even though I have your number. I texted Clay because I was like, no, because Clay and I speak marketing too, and I can speak with both of you. It's fun. But when you said earlier, like you said, the timeline doesn't have to be perfect, the feed doesn't have to be perfect, like consistency. Like I think what's so powerful, and you answered it, and I wanted to tie it together. As long as there's intent in your content, it's perfect. Like as long as there's an intent in your content, and whether that's a question, whether it's an authentic story, whether it's something, and you nailed it earlier, and you teach this in your webinars and things like that. But really, our job is to trade attention, right? Gary says day trading attention, right? But it's to capture attention, and then once we have it, to do something with it. And I think I would love your thoughts too, because one of the things I talk about with everybody all the time, I said the worst thing that you can do is get somebody's attention and do nothing with it. Because now you have trained complacency and like placation, and then now every time they see your content, they're like, oh, I'm just supposed to consume it and do nothing. I'm like, always have a call to action, whether it's write it on a sticky note, think about this thing. Our job with that attention is to lead them somewhere. And so I'd love your thoughts on that, because I feel like you do this with intent, but just naturally you're always like, hey, do this and go, hey, huh, huh. But like, how do you go about that in your intent? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because it's that dance of enough calls to action so they are taking action every day, but not too many where you're confusing the customer. And I'm very intentional about my promotions, and I'm very intentional when I sell. My thought is this: when you're not selling, you're not selling. You're in seasons of, listen, I don't want anything from you. I don't want $1 from you. There are no strings attached. I'm going to spend the next 4 to 6 weeks just entertaining you, bringing you free value. I do that better than a lot of women in my space. And that's why the women trust me, because they know I'm not there to sell you every single day on Instagram. Not at all. I literally don't want $1 from you, Becky. You know, I don't want $1. But when I am selling, I sell and I own it, and I'm unapologetic about it. And then, so when I am selling unapologetically, it's easier then. And they respond to it really well, because it's coming from an authentic place of, hey, I'm your friend and I'm your teacher. And now I am asking you for something in return. I am asking you for energy, or yes, take action on this thing, buy this product for me, this wellness product, this business product, whatever it may be. But then I'll go into a season again, because business is like everything else in life. It's seasonal, it's cyclical. I'll go into seasons where I'm not selling people at all. And the mistake that I think a lot of influencers and coaches and leaders online make is they are always selling. There's always a CTA. Buy this now, buy it now, buy 10 minutes later, buy my mastermind, buy my $50,000 mastermind, or else. And this slimy scarcity versus genuinely saying, how can I show up and serve today? How can I do that for maybe a month or two where I don't ask for anything? And then when I am in a season of selling, or a push or a launch season, I am going to sell unapologetically. And that is what makes me feel confident when I sell, because I know that what I have is great and they do need it. And I'm very particular about what I am selling them. I'm not just, hey, buy this piece of poop. You know, it's something that I'm actually obsessed with. It's something I love, or I'm affiliating. You know, a lot of my work is being an affiliate marketer. So I have to trust these other products and share it with people. And I'll say no to so many things. I say no to 98% of the pitches or the products or the programs that I'm supposed to be, or that people want me to promote, because if I was doing all of them all the time, it would dilute my page, and it would make me look too salesy. So it really comes down to having seasons to your business. And when you sell, but when you're not, don't. And the problem is people aren't willing to play the long game. They just want to make a quick buck. And I actually I could be making a lot faster, but I rather play the long game and know that I have a brand that in 10, 20 years, it's still going to be strong. And that's what's more important to me than selling them on some program every single day.
Yeah, and I think there's so many points. If you guys haven't read The Infinite Game by Simon, it's a really good read to pop into your brain, Simon Sinek. But when you say that, what I see when I look at you and I look at your social, because we've decided that this is a therapy session. What I've seen is that
how much is this? Is this $100
you
or?
do not want my invoice for this one. I'll just take some. I'll just take some new like CBD gummies at the house when we move.
Okay, just one gummy, just one little
Just
tiny
one
gummy.
one gummy because they're my new jam, as you say in the description. And I have a whole thread to pull on that one.
I'm literally gonna send you some gummies after this.
I am literally like opening loop after loop after loop that both of us are like, what is he doing right now? The Zygarnik effect is going crazy. But when I look at you and like what you just said, like, I talk a lot about reciprocity and I love hearing it through your lens and perspective because my brain, like, because I used to be an influencer, right? I realize I still influence people, but I'm not like out. My team runs social. And so now I spend more time in like Clay's brain side of the world, right? And helping people. But I go back and forth. But like when I look at you and I look at you and your audience and your Instagram, I look at them and I see them as like your family. And you're like, hey, there's times I got to kick my family in the shins a little bit. There's times I got to tell them to put the drink down. There's times I got to be like, hey, don't eat that, right? And there's also times that I have to just love them for being there and accept them for where they are and keep them in this container. And I feel like because you're so intentional and so aligned, you intuitively, which is the art of marketing, you intuitively can look at what's there and what's not. And I watch you do this masterfully, but I feel like the way that you do it, the only thing that's guaranteed is the success of it. Like there's no way to lose that game. And I think that's what's so admirable. And I try to tell people this, like when you play the game, like you talk about playing the game, consistent, intentional, aligned, authentic, really the only thing you have no control over is the timeline. But the timeline is only affected by those consistent inputs. And so when you say like going through seasons, I think it's one of the best ways to look at it. Because like I try to have a call to action every time, but it's not buy something. It's, hey, have you thought about this? Like, what about this? Write this sticky note down. Like just really being in it with people. And it's something that you do masterfully. And so like I just want everybody to hear it. And I'm going to pull this thread on authenticity for you because you said this a little while ago and you're like, I don't try to put myself in a box. I go and I do what feels right to me. And I'm going to use your company as an example of this, right? So I literally come in and help companies like CBD. You're a CBD company, 20x, 50x, 100x, right? And then conversion rate optimization is one of them, right? So we're like, what's in the description, how the reviews go? And your CBD gummies, literally, the description says, your new jam. That's it. Like literally, that's the copy that you get. And I think it is one of the best things ever. And I love it for all the reasons. And it says so much more than copywriting and sales tactics and everything because it's humorous, it's short, it's brief, it speaks to the personality, it's inviting, it's enticing, it's congruent, and I love it. And so like when you think about this, because for those of you not know, like Angie, influencer all day, podcast host, but also owns a CBD company that is a physical product CPG brand with her brother. And so it's really interesting to watch you, but like how do you take all of this stuff and apply it over to that side?
Oh man. First of all, we need a marketing show together. You're a little genius over there.
What's funny is you said that to me when you came to the event and you're like, I don't know you, but I feel like we should know each other.
I know. I was like, man, the way that you're able to synthesize things is really beautiful. And it's very rare that I meet other people who have what I call the marketing goggles on, which means, or contact lenses, we should say. When you have them on, you never take them off. Every single billboard, every single piece of content you see it through the lens of, ooh, how are they trying to speak to the customer there? And do they get marketing or do they not? And you can immediately open a box or go to a website and you're like, they get it or they don't get it. And most people don't, which is why we do what we do, is to really help them to see a little clearer and see the world in a different perspective. But with Soul, it's different having a physical product. A lot of my offers prior to that were all digital or live events. And so it was new to bring in a DTC brand, and Mike does a lot of the heavy lifting. He's the CEO of the company. I have to give him all of the props for that. And we have an awesome marketing team, but I was really strong about putting the consumer first, having that empathy and adding some humor. I mean, I'm super weird, so I'd love to make the brand even more weird. If it was all up to me, it would be the weirdest copy ever. But we have to keep it somewhat appropriate for Facebook ads and stuff. But I'm a huge fan of quirkiness. I'm a huge fan of, like you said, using the language of the customer, singing their lyrics. There's a reason why, and Pat Flynn talks about this on an episode I did with him. He said, there's a reason why the Backstreet Boys or NSYNC got all of these women, or the Believers, Justin Bieber's fans, which I'm a believer.
I'll be a believer. I'm a believer.
I'm a believer. There's a reason why they got all of these girls, millions of girls around the world, to say, oh my God, you get me. Oh my God, how did you know that's what a heartbreak feels like at 11 years old? Because they didn't use the language of a 40-year-old man going through a breakup. They used the language of an 11-year-old girl going through a breakup. What does she say? And that's how you should apply it to your marketing. So I don't use the language that I would always use. I step into her shoes and into her brain, and I say, how does she explain this pain? How does she explain what she wants? And I'm pretty obsessed with, I mean, I didn't realize this wasn't something other people did in marketing until I got feedback from other marketers that were like, oh, wow, that's intense that you do this. But for many years, I would take every single response when I would ask a question. How does this make you feel? How would you explain this pain point? And I would take all of the responses and we would put it into a Word doc, and it would be, and the Word doc was called Words of My Customer. And gosh, now with the polls feature on Instagram and all these other social platforms, I'm creating dialogue every day. I know what she's saying. I know what she's thinking. I know what she thinks is funny. I know what she's struggling with. And so I take that language, I put it into just basic Word docs, or I have a notepad on my phone, and I have years worth of content. I have titles of emails that I know they're going to open. I have titles of podcasts, and women will say to me, how did you know that's what I was thinking? How did you know that's how I feel? Or you've probably got this. You're in my brain. It's freaking me out. And I'll say, oh, it's because I actually listened to you. And I think a lot of marketers don't have this symbiotic relationship with their audience. They just speak to them, not with them. And I speak with my community, which creates this really strong connection and creates these lifers or these believers. And then they feel this intimacy and this strong connective tissue because I actually do listen and I do care. Again, going back to empathy. So it really comes down to, what does she want? What does she need? Can I listen more than I talk as a marketer, which then creates more epic and shareable and hopefully viral content. And it's a win-win situation. So
yeah,
I think a lot of marketers don't listen and they don't care. And
well, and I think it's such a valid point, but I'm going to say something that you didn't say. Notice how she didn't say that she's a 35-year-old mom that drives a minivan because nobody gives a shit. Thank you. I'll just say it.
Wait, what do you mean?
I can't see another fucking person talk about avatars and be like, what kind of car do they drive and how much money they make? I'm like, can we get into like what they're feeling and like what's not working in their life? Because I'm pretty sure I haven't had somebody call me and be like, hey, George, will you help me buy this whey protein because I drive a silver minivan? Like, I don't care. And I have a
you mean like psychographics versus demographics?
1,000%. Well, I watch people teach demographics as avatars, and I'm like, no. I was like, no.
What's your favorite color? I'm like, I don't care.
I'm like pink. That's why I'm like literally like we're like brother and sister because like everything I do is black and white lighthouse, and I wear pink shoes 24/7, right? Like pink shoes. I wore them at the event when I met you. Like I'm the pink shoe. I'm the guy that covered in tattoos, drops F-bombs, teaches you to love your customer while wearing pink shoes.
I love it. It's unique. It's different.
It's awesome. You actually said a few things that were extremely validating, but I think are worth really unpacking. And there's one that I think you understand that I don't talk a lot to people about, but you do this, and I know you do this. But I think a lot of marketers can't listen to their customers because you can't hear things that you're out of alignment with first. And so when you're out of alignment and you're posting out of alignment, it's called manipulation, not leadership and not movement, because I'm doing this to get this. And there's no company, and I mean this, I've been behind the scenes, I've helped create unicorns. Like there is none that can get to that level through manipulation. It all has to be like authentic. And so it's hard to hear when you're doing that. So this goes back to your authenticity and alignment. But you said something where you're like, I'm creating dialogue every day and I'm documenting, and I love it. And I teach this. Our documents are called good words and bad words. And so we synthesize them down. And so then when I hire someone, I'm like, these are all the things you can say. These are all the things you can't say. These are all the things they say. These are the things I don't want you to say because I don't like the responses we get from them, right? Like keep them here. But you said you create dialogue. And I think you do this naturally and also just through your marketing brain. But one of the things I help a lot of people with is listening by not what they say in dialogue, by paying attention. So like listening through the goggles of like watching what they interact with and what they don't, what they click on and what they don't. And so like when I look at your Instagram, and correct me if I'm wrong, But I know when you write a post, you're writing that post and you're like, I know that this post is not going to get a lot of comments, but it's giving this woman a permission slip for a couple posts down the road to feel
Yeah.
safe enough to comment.
Yes, yes, yes. I have, going back to intention, there's always intentionality behind the piece of content. And sometimes it is for shareability. Sometimes it is for them to save it. Sometimes it's for them to take action, the CTA, the call to action. And sometimes it's, I have three different types of content that I create: teacher, thought leader, and friend.
Yep.
And I rotate those three. And so the intention is just pure connection. Hey, I'm here. I'm with you. I'm just like you. I'm relatable. I'm literally the girl next door who's your friend. I'm here to help you out. I have ones that are more so thought provoking and they're more leadership. And hey, I'm going to help you through this thing. I'm a few steps ahead of you. And then I have ones that are purely educational. Let me show you that I'm a teacher. Let me educate you. And so when I cycle those, there's this organic trust that starts to happen because I'm not just doing one of them. And that's where I think a lot of people on social get pigeonholed, is when they're trying to be just one of them versus showing that I'm all of those things. I don't just want to be her teacher. I want to show that I'm also her friend, and I have that honesty. So yeah, you're right. When I post, there's different intentions behind it, but there always is an intention. Now, especially now that I'm in, it's interesting. You go in phases. A lot of this was intentional, and then it's organic and intuitive. And now it's kind of a blend of it's organic, it's intuitive, and then I'll go in phases where I'm being a little bit more intentional. So depends what season I'm in, if I'm in more of a growth stage or I'm in more of a nurturing stage. Right now, I want to be in another growth stage. Right now, I want to be in a growth stage before the book comes out, and then I'll go back into more of a nurturing stage. As you can tell, everything's really cyclical and intuitive in my business. And maybe that's a very feminine way to run. And this is where women do really well in marketing, and I think have a superpower. And I think if men can tap into that more, that's awesome, because this is where the feminine energy just works so well in marketing, because you are so intuitive with the customer and you're dancing with them, versus a lot of men in marketing don't think like you. They're very just like, hopefully the ROI on this is amazing. It's not, we suck, or what are the numbers? What are the numbers? And they're staring at the back end of their account, looking at the open rate versus looking at the copy and saying, oh, did this actually speak to them? And what's the emotional piece of this? And this is where, again, I tell women, I go, listen, you have an advantage in marketing. This is why women 1000%. Are usually great saleswomen. Or salespeople. This is why women do great in network marketing. I think this is why women are dominating in social media right now, is because they're able to do that. And men who do stand out like you, who can tap into that heart-based marketing. So
yeah, it's such a, and I love the analogy of the masculine and feminine. And here's why, like, because I obviously do this work with Stefanos, and Stefanos and Christine really well. So we're about to just change the entire wrapping paper and language of this conversation to get to the same point, right? But what I think is, like, when you look at business structure is masculine, because the masculine energy is the master of time and space. But when you have a solid space, the feminine lives in the most amazing way, because it can be reckless in a container. And so what you say and what makes your socials, you're like, I'm going to be either, the teacher, the boom, the entertainer, the friend, or, if you're using marketing language from Jonah Berger, it's humor, credibility, controversy, education, or social status, right? It's one of those five. But if like, I'm going to be consistent and I'm going to be one of those things, then you have a container that's tight, and you can go be your authentic self in the middle of it. And no matter what, it's moving somebody closer and closer and closer to your business or to your brand.
Yeah, I honestly think I don't have a left brain. I went to the Amen clinic. I got my brain scanned, and I'm like, I bet you they're going to tell me that my left brain just doesn't. I joke with Clay all the time. I'm like, I don't have a lot of that rigid masculine energy in business. I'm not obsessed with the analytics. I'm not obsessed with the numbers. I actually need to work on that a little bit more, to have a little bit more awareness around the numbers and the data. But I also see the advantage of me focusing more so on the feminine aspects of business, because that's worked so well. So at the end of the day, like everything else, I believe it's a balance. You need a little bit of both, or you need to hire out what you're not good at. So honestly, I think I would do so great in a position where I had a male CEO who could come in and do all of that for me, while I just go and be me, who is just fluid and flowy and intuitive and heart-based and empathetic. And I'm all of those things, because I don't want to look at the numbers. I don't give a shit. I just want to create.
Just so you know, I don't have access to the bank account. I don't
Wait,
have.
who does?
My wife and Tyler.
Okay.
My wife does all of it. I don't have access to bank account. I don't have access to the analytics. I don't have access to the ad accounts. I am told, go be you. And then I'm given like the 100,000-foot view, because if you tell me a number, I'll be like, oh my God, I failed. Like it didn't work. And I was like, I want the people. And so I've learned, like my
Yeah.
QBR, as Mike McAllis calls it, my queen bee role is people, right? And so I protect everything else that stops me from being with people. And I know my strengths. And so in the way that I do business and marketing, it's very feminine. But because of my military background, I know structure. And so what I do is I just put a minimal amount of structure in, and then I can be myself in it, right? Like I'll go do, you and I would probably do like a 9-hour podcast and not even take a pee break, like legitimately.
I would just pee my pants. Yeah.
You would, and then you would Instagram story about it the next day, and you'd be like, and the cool kids pee their pants, like Billy Madison. See, like when we get into marketing,
I love it. No, it's so true, because it's this, and this has always been my battle, is how much do you want to know? Because if you're riding the roller coaster of the numbers, oh my gosh, I just lost 10, I just gained 11. Mm-hmm. My opt-in rate, or my open rate to that email wasn't as strong. If you're constantly riding the ups and downs and you're not staying even keel, emotionally, you're going to be a wreck as a marketer. So it is really, really smart to actually not look at it every single day. I tell women when they're new, I'm like, put your blinders on, get your niche nailed down, get passionate, know who you're speaking to, and just go and be a machine, and look down and don't look up for another year or two. Yep. And then start looking at maybe your performance or assessing things. But if you do it in the beginning or at certain places in your career, it can really,
it can be detrimental. Like I remember,
the algorithm. You know?
I remember there was like weeks I'm like, oh, I'm down, and I would make an adjustment based on the down, which would cause an undesirable permanent result based on that emotional decision. And so like I've had to work on, I'm like, it sounds like I read a lot. I didn't start reading till like 3 years ago, but I've probably recommended like 20 fucking books already.
Yeah, I love it.
Scott Carney is who taught me this, right? Because I do cold therapy, you do cold therapy, right? And it's probably one of my biggest secret weapons as an entrepreneur, because it teaches me to pause and hold rather than react. And
wow.
So what ends up happening is with cold therapy, I was able to be in discomfort, because Angie will tell you it never gets easier. Ever. It still hurts the same for the first 60 seconds or 90 seconds, right? But what you end up getting really good at is training your autonomic nervous system to hold when it wants to knee jerk. And so Scott Carney wrote a book called The Wedge, and I feel like it's an entrepreneur's secret weapon, and it's training like, oh, the number's down, or this didn't go well. And instead of doing anything, just pausing, letting it come. But then like I put it in my calendar for 48 hours later.
Wow.
And so like I set a date with it, right? I'm like, okay, got it. I see you, I hear you, I feel you. We have a date in 2 days, but I got to process this out and be on the ride. And 99% of the time I just delete it from my calendar, because it handles itself. It's cleared. It didn't go. And I'm like, oh, I was just about to close the business, or launch a 7th Instagram account this week, or shut off that ad campaign that was the best thing that we've ever done, right?
Yes. And that impulsivity is a superpower. And then also a weakness, and you're inspiring me to get back into cold therapy. It's been a few weeks because it's cold now, so I don't want to go do it. You know?
But it makes it easier because the water ends up being more comfortable than the air.
Oh, okay.
I like doing ice baths better when it's cold out, because there's less of a contrast.
Oh.
And so it doesn't feel like I'm going from 85 to 40. I'm going from 42 to 40, and the water feels good.
Oh, I like this. I like this mind shift here.
Yeah, but it's all about perspective. Come on, you're like personal development, NLP queen of everything. We just don't put it in labels. But
I'm also like the comfort queen sometimes.
I know you are.
It doesn't feel good, I'm not doing it.
Well, and you know what? You are, but you aren't, though, because like I look at you, and like I was going to ask you this earlier, because I think this is really, really powerful. Like I look at your level of consistency, and it makes me uncomfortable for all the right reasons, right? Like
people tell me that. It's interesting.
Yeah, and you know, I think you're so clear and so aligned, right? What it does, like for me, it challenges my greatness. Like it challenges my commitment to my own sovereignty, because I'm like,
oh, I love that.
I say what I want, right? It's like, hey, I want to run a marathon. And you're like, oh, great. Why aren't your running shoes on? And I'm like, well, because I want. And right. And this actually kind of leads me into your book, because I love your book, Ready as a Lie. And it's like for years, consistency for me represented proving that core wound wrong, right? The reason I became an entrepreneur, right? Because like if I'm consistent, it's measurable. And if it's measurable, it's guaranteed to succeed. And if I show up, like eventually you're going to finish the race. Yeah. You just might not look at it. But your consistency
Yeah.
is admirable, and I love it. And so I wanted to ask you though, when you look at how you show up every day, like, do you have any challenges in showing up that consistently? And then how do you like prep for it? Because like it feels like you spend, and I know you don't, but it feels like you spend 12 hours a day on Instagram.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't know I was insanely consistent until
Mm.
other people told me I was consistent.
Oh yeah.
And then I realized that I was more consistent than everyone else. I think for me, again, going back to one, I love creating. So it comes very natural to me. There's not a huge resistance, but yeah, I definitely have times where I don't want to create, now I'm in some resistance, even with the podcast. Like I don't want to do it a certain way or certain days. And there's always going to be blocks when you're a creative because there's almost too many ideas and then executing them. And yeah, it's always a battle, right?
Mm.
And this is where I love Seth Godin. I love the resistance. I love
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Pressfield's work around this. And Ready as a Lie is a lot about the resistance. Literally, how do you get through that as a creative when you want to express something, but you're feeling these blocks around how to get it done or how to say it or what are they going to think? And the resistance can come up as imposter syndrome. It can come up as comparisonitis. I deal with that a lot. It can
Mm-hmm.
come up as judgment, fear of what are they going to say? What's my Uncle Ted going to say? Or it could just be, I'm tired. I don't feel like it. And then is it really me tired and uninspired? Or is it just I'm being lazy? And so I don't think there's any creative who would say that they don't wake up, whether they're an
Mm-hmm.
artist, whether they're a musician, whether they're a podcaster, whether they're creating social content influencer, whatever it is they do, they're lying if they say it's not a battle of
Mm-hmm.
showing up every single day. But I think insert Will Smith's treadmill quote here. I think I've always known, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I'm going to run on the treadmill longer than you. Like that,
Mm-hmm.
that's just who I am. I'm going to do it longer. And so when I came into this industry, I realized the way that I was going to win is by showing up more and being more authentic than any other woman in my space. And this isn't to say it's competition, but that's how I knew I at least was going to be
Mm.
successful in this space because I was going to show up more and I was going to show up more of myself than anyone that I know. And that was the commitment that I made. And now that I've built it, I have some more flexibility and whatnot. But yeah, this is really what the book is about. It's think daily stoic, like Ryan
Mm-hmm.
Holiday
Mm-hmm.
me, tongue in cheeky, take action, get over your BS fears, get out of your own way. And that was my vision with the book is after interviewing successful people, and I'm sure you're going to agree on this,
Mm-hmm.
after meeting them, interviewing them, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what's the secret to success? Like
Yeah.
so cheesy. I want to puke in a bowl, right? I'm like, ugh. Um, I realized after meeting them or working with them, whatever, I realized the one thing they all said is, I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't ready, but, and then fill in the blank, their entire story and all their success. And I was like, oh, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So then, of course, that's where I was in the car one day with Clay. And I was like, my book, if I had to write one, it's going to be about this concept of perfectionism and the paralysis as a creator or as an ambitious person, getting through that block and taking action because I'm so good at it. And I want to teach other people, how have I done that? Or how do I get through these blocks? And he was like, yeah, it's almost like readiness, And I'm like, yeah, it's like if it's like such a lie that you got to just be ready to take action. And then he was like, ready is a lie. And I was like, oh my God.
I could envision that happening because he gets so excited when he hits it. He probably wanted to like pull the car over, and then his brain was like, "This is what we're gonna do. This is what the book's gonna look like. This is how we're gonna market it. Here's the hook. Here's the sub headline."
Oh yeah, listen, the subtitle. I love this. We're giving a behind the scenes to everyone listening. The subtitle I worked on for almost 4 months now because I wanted to make sure it was in the exact language of the woman. So when you guys see it, you're gonna realize it was extremely intentional. It wasn't, oh, this would sound cute. It's how does she explain what ready as a lie means? So then I pulled and I did a lot of crowdfunding.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know it's called crowdfunding. I'm just asking the
Crowdsourcing.
crowd.
Crowdsourcing.
Crowdsourcing. Yeah, I didn't ask them for money, but I'm doing a lot of crowdsourcing to get to that exact language because my vision is when that girl picks it up, who it's meant for, or man says, wow, this is exactly what I need. This is exactly how I feel right now. I'm so afraid to take action because I'm so in my head about it needing to look perfect. So I don't show up. I don't make the sales call. I don't ask for the raise. I don't leave my 9-to-5 job and try to do the crazy thing or start the side hustle. This is why I'm not showing up on social and putting myself out there, sharing my story. I mean, this book isn't just for entrepreneurs. It's for anybody who's in a situation where they want to leave good for great and they want to leave comfortable. And that is the vision of the book, and we're almost done writing. I have a writer who's supporting me in the process, and it's been really cool because and you'll agree on this too, George. It's like I meet girls who are 1 week into their online business or network marketers who need this, and I meet men who are in their late 40s who are super successful and say, yeah, I still struggle with this. I still struggle with perfectionism and the fear of showing up and thinking that it needs to look perfect or I need to be ready. And I mean, that's what's cool about it, is it's almost like the topic is very niche, but who it's going to speak to isn't, which I kind of like.
Yeah, I love it. I commented on almost all of those. I was like, subtitle this, subtitle this, subtitle this. I was like, yes, yes, yes. But I think so a couple things I want to agree with. Number one,
I'll have to show you the cover and get your feedback.
Oh, I'd love it. Text it to me. One of the things that I love that you said, like, we both known this, like, we've been behind the scenes successful. We've had our own downs, but like, really, like, everybody I talk to, everybody I interview, all my mentors, everything, it's consistency and alone time. That's it. Those are the two secrets. Consistency and alone time. Yeah, like you do this, right? But you do it not on Instagram, but like to get aligned, to check in with yourself, to, cold therapy, to have some sort of practice, right? Yeah. Like you reference Ryan or anything, some sort of practice where you are getting in alignment with yourself, right? And, I was talking to somebody earlier, I'm like, most of my success has come by not allowing somebody else to dictate what I do with my time. And so during this whole crazy time of the year, like I lost over 7 figures in 45 days. I lost a company. I lost a mastermind. Like we got hammered. Yeah. Hammered. And every part of me was like, what am I good at? Well, I'm good at marketing and selling. Let's go. And I was like, no. So I changed my practice and I started having a 3-hour morning silence practice alone. And it took me like 30 days. And on the back end of it, I was like, I'm going to launch a podcast. I'm going to go do something that's not going to make me any flipping money. But it's aligned to what I want to do, and that's what I'm going to do. And it's crazy because I held in some of the craziest resistance. We're building out of it now, and we're fine. But I literally was like, I never would have been able to do that if I was looking at the business, the numbers, reading social. I really needed that time to like process and plug into myself. And so what you said, and I longly summarize what you say because I like talking too, just so everybody knows why I'm talking and Angie's not on a podcast I'm interviewing Angie about. When you say
I love it, you're bringing value.
when you say ready is a lie though, and like the different levels, what I've learned about this is that the only difference in the starting line is that the race ahead looks a little bit longer at higher levels. And so I feel like the resistance increases because the game is getting longer. And so like I felt in the beginning, it's like I didn't have much to lose. Like if I make a mistake, like I don't have an entire team or a family or boom, I was like, oh, boom, boom, boom. But like now when I get 6 figures, then 7 figures, then 8 figures, I'm like, oh, me starting has so many implications that the pressure is there. And so I feel like it's always personally going to be ready is a lie. But what I just need to be aware of is that the field that I'm playing on is a lot bigger. And so because of that, it's okay to bake in that moment or have that time to process it. And so I wanted to validate what you said because, like I was just with a client, they're worth $550 million. I just spent 4 days in their business with them and it comes up for him more than it comes up for me. And I mean like probably 70% of that time was spent on personal development, mindset, and like helping him realize like, hey, do you know, like you never have to work again? But he's like, oh, because it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. So I just wanted to validate that when you said that.
Wow, that's so powerful because I know the woman or man listening is thinking, well, don't you hit a certain level of success and it goes away? But it doesn't. If anything, it gets heavier because your expectations are heavier and your
that's why we preach, like Stephanos and I preach practice so much. Like we did a podcast and it's not released yet, so nobody can hear it, but we were like having this conversation of like, what is really the finish line? Like if we had to pick a finish line, right? Because ready as a lie is about not moving the starting line, right? But then we're running this race. We talk about the infinite game and the long game, but what's the finish line? Like, what is it? And we both looked at each other and we're like, awareness is the finish line. That's it. It's just awareness. Because no matter what level we reach, like you're never going to hit a point in Soul CBD, whether we hit 100 million or a billion, you're like, oh, that's it. No, you're always going to want to keep going in your personal brand, in your life, in philanthropy and charity and empowering women in events. And so like the finish line doesn't exist. It's awareness of it. So you have some sort of measure, or you're aware of what it was that gets you going.
Yeah, this is so good. I'm like, holy shit, we're gonna have to bring you on my show to talk about this because this is deep, right? And this is where
Totally.
entrepreneurship really is just a game of self-awareness. After a few years, you're like, what the heck
Well, and
is
there's
going
this
on?
core. I watch you do it, right? Like I watch you, and like and I've known Clay a lot longer than I've known. Like
Yeah.
Clay was there the day my career started, which is really funny. That's a whole different story.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, crazy. I love him to pieces.
Yeah. For me, I think it's almost like, for me, especially as a woman who wants to have a family and kids and be able to quote unquote do it all, I think for me, I've been thinking about that a lot lately is what will success look like
Mm-hmm.
for me in 5 years, or what is the finish line? And for me, it's, I want another word other than balance, because balance sounds so
Harmony,
cheesy.
harmony.
Yeah, it's harmony. It's knowing, okay, I can somewhat do it all. Not saying I don't have help or not saying I don't have seasons, but I want to be able to show other women, hey, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
mom, and I'm a mom and a wife first, but I'm also someone who writes books, and I have a cool community, and I have an awesome job. And I want to show that because I don't know a lot of women who are doing that and doing both well. And so, and when
Mm-hmm.
they do admit they have help, but then the ones who on Instagram make it look like they're doing it all, act like they don't
And
have any
there's
help.
7 nannies behind the scenes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And like, yeah.
Yeah. So I think for me, that's recently what's been coming through is what is success, and know what it know what you want, so then I can work towards that
Mm-hmm.
versus what another woman wants. And Instagram can really be a dangerous place for that comparisonitis of, oh, well, I need her life. But no, what is actually going to make me happy? It's not
Yeah.
necessarily a certain number in my bank account. It's knowing that I have my priorities straight,
Yep.
because entrepreneurship can eat you alive, and the fact that it can just consume you and become your identity. And I don't want that, even
Yeah.
though it already has, in a sense. I want to be and do more than that in life,
Yeah,
because
I was gonna say this to you earlier, and I'm totally interrupting you. Not sorry.
no, go for it. No,
I
go.
was
This
gonna
is
say
good.
this to you earlier because it was actually about harmony, and what I love about you is that I had a teacher a long time ago who said balance is the way to set yourself up to fail, because if you fall out of it, it implies you crash. And he's like, but if you look at music and you take the notes out, it sounds horrible, but when you put them together, it creates a symphony. And he's like, that's harmony. And what I love about you is you're like, hey, you're crystal clear on why you do, what you do, and how you do it. And that's your container. So I call that your Truman Show, right? That's your world. And so if that's your structure, you can be harmonious any way that you want. You can go low, you can go high, you can pause, you cannot, because you have it in a container. And it's something that, like, I use you, and I am saying this to flatter you. I'll just be really frank about it. I go to companies all the time. Like, I was just with a $10 million company last week, a $30 million company the week before, and like helping them, 10x, 20x their business. And they're always like, what kind of influence should I look for? What should my profile look? I'm like, Angie, 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 Angie.
Oh, that's so nice.
But when I have people like, I'm afraid to be myself, and I'm like, poop, baby grandma, look at those fucking Crocs. Like, are you kidding me? Like, go, right? And it's really, really powerful. But like, you do so much so well in harmony. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to witness. And I know now, it's effortless because you're aligned and what it is. But the one thing earlier that I want to say for 10 seconds is when you said, like, I feel like it's levels of self-awareness. Literally, as we scale up this game, right? If you use the hero's journey analogy, right? You slay the dragon, you come back, teach it. The dragon just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so, like, what I have learned is that, like, as I've grown in business, my results come gradually by spending less and less time in the business and more time on myself. And so there's like this correlation of, like, as income starts to go up, my time in the business goes down, but my time in like self-reflection, self-awareness, I'm in more therapy now than I was when I wasn't working, right? Like, and so
Like this session right now.
totally. And so I think it's something that you nail. And I just, like, for anybody listening to this, watching this, like, go check her out on her website at Angie Lee, but go to her Instagram. I'm telling you right now, I could literally have a bowl of popcorn and a bottle of Camus and just go. And I do sometimes. Like, this morning before we jumped on, I was dying because I was like, Clay's sleeping in the other room and they're dancing around the Christmas tree. I'm like, that's
I mean,
totally.
my dream job is just to be a comedian. I mean, honestly, being real with you. So
Mhm.
it's funny when you say that, because that makes me so happy. It's one thing to help people make money. It's cool, whatever. I'll always do it. It's great, right? I mean, money brings freedom, abundance, all these great things, optionality, but nothing is cooler than when somebody tells me, I watch your content and it makes me smile, or it makes me laugh, or I'm dealing with depression right now and you brought me joy. Like I really think my greatest gift is bringing people joy. And so that makes me so happy. That makes me
1,000%.
happier than anything.
Hands down, hands down. Like it's what it like, and literally, like I spit out my like. I thought, right, like I get when Clay gets in. Like Clay's helped me write keynotes before, right? So I know when he gets into something. But when he put the fucking sourdough next to your bed on your nightstand, I lost it. I was like, I'm done. I can't. I need to text him. Like, are we okay?
He's obsessed. He literally was like, hey, this has got to go in the bedroom. I'm like, why? He's like, well, I got to set the timer and I started it late. And I'm like, no, we do not have a sourdough next to our bed. Is this our kid or is this our, like, what is going on here? This is crazy.
It's all right. It's that feminine nurturing spirit in him that's going to make him an amazing father, because it's amazing. You guys make my heart so happy.
He's an angel.
So many reasons. So I want to be respectful of your time. I want to rapid fire like a couple questions to you though.
Oh, let's go. This was so good. Honestly, one of my favorite conversations on marketing ever.
Woo. Oh man, we got to do round 2 on your podcast though, because I'm ready to go the other way. I'm like, you stick a quarter in me or a bottle of wine and you will get everything people pay me for. Like either way, you're going to get it. I told my, you know, it's funny you said this about moms. I literally, for whatever reason, the last month have had 3 women join my mastermind and all their babies are less than a week old. And I was like, you're rock stars. Can I learn from you? Right? I'm like, because the last thing I did when my son was born, I'm like, let me go jump into a mastermind. I was like, give me help. I need sleep. And now he's 4 and I scream, give me help more than anything. But, so, you said that and I'm just like, I like future casted with my marketing goggles, as you call them, or contact lenses. I was like, I already know exactly what your Instagram's going to look like when you're a mom, and it's going to be the best shit ever. And I can't,
it's going to be hilarious.
I can't wait for the maternal brand with the CBD for lactation cookies are coming, guaranteed. And they're going to be like baby grandma logos on top of them. Like legitimately.
Lactation cookie.
I know they're coming. Literally.
You said it first, December 30th,
Nostradamus me right now. Like I can see your path from like a mile away. It's so awesome.
I'm so excited because I'm just going to show like I'm going to be the antithesis of the fancy mom bloggers. I'm going to be like the shit show mom blogger who's like just crazy and weird. And my kids do not have matching socks because who the hell has time for that? And
my kids don't. My 4-year-old doesn't wear pants anymore. So like, legitimately, hold on. Like nobody's gonna see this but you. But like, I literally have to show this to you because last night that was my son on top of the refrigerator with his iPad and no pants on.
Is his junk hanging out?
Oh yeah. Oh, you can't see it in the picture because I covered it with his kneecap. But yes, that was my 4-year-old saying, "Daddy, I want to watch my iPad on top of the refrigerator with no pants on." And so what did Daddy say? Okay, and I put him up there.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? You're 4 years old. Go live your best
And then
life.
I posted on Instagram or on Facebook. I was like, this is one of my wisest teachers. My goal for 2021 is to be so happy I sit on top of my refrigerator with no pants on with an iPad. Like, game over. Game over. Oh, my God, Angie.
Oh, my gosh. I can't. I have women who are like, I'm going to send you baby grandma onesies for your baby. I'm like, these women are already planning it for me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so funny.
This is what happens when you're good. So here's a rapid fire question.
Okay.
What book are you reading right now?
Ooh, this is good. I have a few. I'm actually reading Dr. Daniel Amen's ADD book right now because I just got tested. I got confirmed and I'm interviewing him soon. So I'm all in.
More brain scans than anybody.
Yeah. Wait, awesome. You've gone there? I
know him because I had really bad TBI and Jim called him for me because I attempted suicide because all my brain injuries and I ended up going through stem cells. I ended up doing a lot of plant medicine, a whole lot of everything you can imagine. And now I'm like peachy or hunky dory. And I say that my brain injury made me good at marketing, so I don't want to really fix it anymore.
Yeah, it was a fascinating experience. I'm bringing him on next month, and I'm so excited because I'm like, fangirling over him. So
that's so awesome. Okay, so his book. What else are you reading?
Oh gosh, what else am I reading right now? I'm listening to on my my Audible Clay always gives me like crazy shit. I'm starting the Resistance because he was like, Angie, you don't know it, but you're obsessed with this concept that this guy already wrote about. I'm like, no. So the Resistance, I'll probably start Seth's new book really soon. Gosh, I don't know. What else should I was just thinking that today on my walk. I was like, I need some new stuff.
Have you read The Catalyst by Jonah Berger?
No.
You are going to lose your shit.
Okay.
It's how to change people's minds, and it goes through the stages of reactance, endowments, time, distance.
I wrote this on my sticky note.
But in our language. It's in our language, not in like academia language. Like it's in story and in people. You'll love it. It's hands down my #1 book recommendation.
Okay, I'm gonna have you text me this after. I'm also on Audible.
I will. Mm-hmm. Best business book you've ever read.
This is Marketing.
Yep. Got it.
Seth. I mean, we didn't even get into permission marketing today, but a lot of what we talked about essentially was permission marketing. And every time I go back to that, I'm like, okay, this is the way it should be. This is the way it should be done. All right, this is the way I should do it. Don't look at what other people are doing. Do it this way because this is the way to win in the long game.
Yep. Favorite food? If you can only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Healthy or unhealthy?
I want whatever. You have to commit to eating this for the rest of your life. You better make it fun. If I can only eat one thing for the rest of my life, it's going to be unhealthy, so I just die sooner, and enjoy the process.
Pizza or peanut butter?
What kind of pizza?
Butter. Just peanut butter.
Okay, so then I'm going to go one step deeper. What is the weirdest thing that you've ever eaten peanut butter with?
Oh, I stay away from it because if I had it in the house, I would eat like 10 jars, but when I do eat it, I dip it. I dip like chicken and turkey and
chicken.
Butter.
No, I was waiting. My favorite thing is chicken and almond butter. Chicken and almond butter. It's so good.
It's so good.
I'm not alone in the world.
Chicken and almond butter.
I love chicken and almond butter. I have to write that in the intro. I can't even do an intro in the intro because the way I freestyled your intro is one of my favorite ones so far.
Oh my God. Wait, did you even have that prepped or no?
No, that was off the top.
Oh, that's even, wow.
Yeah, so my team calls me the copy rapper. Their favorite thing is like events. They'll be like, well, I can't figure out how to write this, so they'll throw me a couple words and I'll just copy rap it. Like I can't write like type, but like most of my clients, like I spit copy for like emails and social. It's like my favorite thing in the world.
Wow, that's actually great because you could just voice it or for a job like this, like having that advantage in podcasting is everything. That's awesome.
Somebody actually asked me this morning, they're like, how'd you get so good at this? I was like, I talked when everybody told me not to, and I just kept talking and kept talking and kept talking and kept talking. I was like, I don't know, 30 years of practice of annoying people and my wife telling me our marriage is successful because I talk so much at work. Like that's...
Oh my God, that's so funny. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, cool. So everybody, I'm going to be respectful of your time. We're going to end. Everybody, make sure you go check out Angie's website, angielee.com. And I'm going to tell you right now, here's your call to action. Go follow her on Instagram and buy the book. Ready as a Lie. You have to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it. Ready as a Lie, angielee.com. I do have one final question for you, though.
Ooh, I'm ready.
It's my favorite one. This is your mark in the world and you to be a lighthouse. So for everybody listening, if you could only tattoo one thing on their soul for them to take forward from this interview, if it's the only thing that they took forward from this entire interview or that they took from just this spot to carry with them for the rest of their life, what would you tattoo on their soul?
Is this on their soul or their butt cheek?
Butt cheek works too. In your world, it's butt cheek.
Tattoo on their left butt cheek. I mean, I can't say ready as a lie because it's so cliche and I'm allergic to cliches, so I won't say that. I'm going to say empathy. It's not only a superpower in marketing, but if you can master that superpower in life, you're going to go so far and to so many places. So if I was to get another tattoo, I only have one. It's the ampersand. It's the and sign.
Yep.
But if I was to have another, it would probably just be empathy. Well, calm the F down and then empathy.
I love it. Calm the F down, empathy, and whoever gets it tattooed on your left butt cheek, I'm sure she'll bring you on the podcast or let you come to an event.
I'll send you like one free book if you tattoo it on your butt cheek.
Or one gummy. Just one. I'll
send you one gummy and one when the book's out. I will send you just one copy if you tattoo it on your left butt cheek.
I love it. I love it. I am not held responsible, liable, and no means am I promoting that you get a tattoo of somebody else's slogan on your left butt cheek, and I will not be held responsible. So there we go for my attorneys. All right, cool.
He is 100% responsible.
Thank you so much for being here.
Oh,
I'm going to say this publicly. Awesome. We need to do a round 2 on my show, and we need to also go do yours.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
This was one of the best interviews probably ever. I'm going to be dead serious. Ever. You're very talented. You're so good at I mean, you were made for this. You're great. You're just
Thanks.
fantastic. And I'm interviewed a lot, so
I
I'm
love
not
it.
just saying this.
It's the best because normally when these things end, I'm like, God, I'm so bad at interviews because I don't like interviews. I just like talking to
No,
people.
like this brought me so much energy, and I know when it was good if it brought me energy versus depleted me. And I'm like, let's F and G now.
I'll take it. I'll take it. So I'm going to end the show. Everybody, make sure you check her out. Angie, thanks for being here. Let me do the outro right now. So, for those of you that were listening, that was another episode of the Free for All Friday. Remember, Crocs are cool. You can take CBD, talk about poop, have baby grandmas, have babies, and will be buying lactation cookies sometime in the next 5 years because Clay will be birthing his sourdough babies and eventually will give Angie a real one. And that's what we covered in today's episode. I will see you guys in the next one. Remember, I will see you in the next one or you will hear me in your earballs. But either way, it's time to cue the outro.